Hello everyone. Today we're going to be actually remembering how to graph inequalities. So let's go ahead and title our paper Graphing Inequalities. If you guys have some graph paper, it might be helpful because we are going to be graphing 5 different things or 6 different things. So graphing inequalities is this set of notes. So I just want to go over, so these things we should remember how to actually graph a linear line or a linear graph. So for our first example, if we have the graph, we're supposed to graph y equals negative 2x plus 1. So for our first example, go ahead, make your graph, and we are going to start at our y-intercept. Remember, this is your x, this is your y. So you're going to start at your y-intercept at the positive 1, make a dot, and then this is your slope. So let's actually just write this. So y-intercept equals 1. That's where you start. And then your slope is 2, negative 2. But in order to figure out the rise over run, we need to actually make it into a fraction by putting a 1 underneath it. So from this point, I'm now going to go down 1, 2, and then to the right 1. Down 1, 2, and to the right 1. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect those dots with my ruler. Okay, so now once I was able to connect my dots, we now have our linear graph that we were able to start by graphing our first y-intercept on the y-axis. It needs to be intersecting that. And then we used our slope to find the rest of our points. So those are some things that should be a refresher. These also things, this is for our inequalities now. So let's remember inequalities. And we'll say inequality rules. So for example, if you have an open circle, then this means this is going to imply that you have a greater than or a less than symbol. You're going to have a dotted line, and your point is not included. Or we could just say points are not included. Okay. If you have a solid circle, you are going to have the less than or equal to signs with the equal to sign underneath it. Then this one's going to be, it's a solid dot, so it's a solid line. And your points are included on this one. So points included on these solid dots. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through and actually graph a couple of these examples. So let's write the instructions first. So directions, so you guys know what you're looking for and how to solve this. We are going to graph the following inequalities. And then our first graph that we're going to do for under graphing inequalities, we are going to graph y less than or equal to 3x minus 2. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my graph again. I start at my y-intercept just like I did up here on my linear equations. So my y-intercept was negative 2. So I'm going to go down to negative 2 on my graph and use my slope, which my slope is equal to 3. Again, rise over run. I need to make a run, putting it over 1. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, over to the right 1. Up 1, 2, 3, over to the right 1. I'm going to go ahead and connect those dots, but be careful. This time we actually care if it's dotted or solid. Since we have a less than or equal to sign, that means that we have a solid line. I think of this as like, since I have a line here, I'm going to have a solid line here. But the only thing that's different about graphing inequalities is that we now have to shade. So you need to shade what's true. So that means that we have to pick a point anywhere on this graph, not on the line, that we need to actually see if it holds true. So I like picking the point 0, 0, and you can see that this point 0, 0 is not on my graph, so I'm safe to choose that point. So 0, comma 0, this is going to be my x, this is my y. So now I'm going to plug it into this equation right here to see if the statement is true. So for y, I get 0 is less than or equal to 3 times 0 for the x minus 2. Go ahead and simplify that. So 0 is less than 3 times 0, which is 0. And 0 is less than or equal to negative 2. So think about that statement. Is that true? So 0 is less than or equal to negative 2. So this is actually a false statement. It is not true. Okay, so since it's false, we need to shade the opposite side. So I'm now going to shade this opposite. So where that point was on the left side over here, I have to shade the opposite side where it will actually hold true. And let me actually show you guys that if you prove it with points, so if I were to actually pick a point over here, so like 1 comma, let's do a different color here. So if I were to do 1 comma 0, this point should hold true, and I'm going to show you what a true statement is. So this one was false. So now I'm going to plug in, let me actually erase this because false means not true. And now I'm going to test this point out. So 1 comma 0, this is my x, this is my y. I'm going to plug in 0 for y again, less than or equal to 3 times 1 minus 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and simplify 3 minus 2, and 0 less than or equal to 1. Yes, this is true, so you shade where it is a true statement. This point right here was on the true side, so that's why we shaded over here. Okay, so let's do another one. Number 2, we're going to now graph y is just less than 3x minus 2. We have our y-intercept of negative 2. We have our slope of 3, make it over 1. I'm going to go ahead and graph. Oops. And we're going to start at that y-intercept being negative 2. So the only thing that's different here, you guys, is that we have a less than symbol and not the line underneath it. So I have negative 2, up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 1, 2, 3 over 1. I'm going to have this, but it's going to be dotted this time because I have a less than symbol, so that means it's a dotted line. So you're just going to kind of follow your ruler or your binder, whatever you're using to make the line. Make it dotted. And now, since I made it dotted, we're going to test that same point now. I'm going to test that 0, 0, and we're going to see if we get a true or false statement. So I'm going to plug in 0, 0. This is my x, this is my y. Plug it into my original equation. 0 is less than 3 times 0 minus 2. Simplify this, and I get 0 is less than negative 2. Is that statement true or false? So we want to make sure that since it was, this statement is false again, we are shading the opposite side from where that point was. If that statement was true, you would be shading where that point was. Okay, so let's do our last 2 examples here. And we're going to be using the same graph here. So y is now greater than or equal to 3x minus 2. And we are going to do our y-intercept, which equals negative 2, our slope, which is equal to 3 over 1 again. And we're going to go ahead and do our graph. Go down to negative 2, and then we're going to use that same slope. So we are graphing the same thing, negative 2, up 1, 2, 3 over 1. I'm going to go ahead and connect those dots. It's a solid line underneath that greater than sign. So we're going to do a solid line here again. I'm going to test the same point. If you guys can always test 0, 0, that's awesome. It's the easiest point to plug in. So we're now going to do 0, 0. So 0 greater than or equal to 3 times 0 minus 2. 0 is greater than or equal to 0 minus 2, and 0 again is greater than or equal to negative 2. So if we're thinking on this scale, negative 2 is over here, and 0 is here. So that means that we do have 0 is greater. This is now a true statement. So now I get to shade where that point was because it is a true statement. So we're shading the opposite side. Okay. And our fourth one that we're going to show you, it's the same graph again. But it's just going to be greater than, not the equal to, 3x minus 2. My y-intercept is equal to -2. My slope again is 3 over 1. Go ahead and start the graph. We're going to start -2, go up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 1, 2, 3 over 1. And then this time it's going to be dotted because I don't have that line underneath. So there's my dotted graph. We're going to now test this point 0, 0. X comma y, we're going to plug it into our original equation. 0 is greater than 3 times 0 minus 2. We already know 3 times 0 is 0, minus 2 is 0 greater than -2. This statement is true again. So we are going to shade where the side, that point was that we actually tested. It's going to be that side again. Okay. There will be a couple different tricky ones, just to make sure that you guys don't have, if nothing's here, that your y-intercept starts at 0 and you're just going to use your slope, so you would start this and then use 1, 2, 3 over 1. And that's about all that we will go over. Actually, sorry, I'm going to add a little bit more to this, just to go over, actually, that we will end notes today. All right, I'll see you guys in class. Thanks.